Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Divine Frequency Online Podcast. Today
Uh-huh.
we are going to be looking at, some really inspiring stories
Okay.
about how
Yeah.
people have really thrived in the face of mental health challenges.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how often, what we think is a setback can actually become, a source of real strength.
Yeah, and that's really what we're going to be unpacking
Massive
today.
sure.
We have a great episode of the Bouncing Back podcast that we're going to be diving into,
Okay.
and we're also going to be taking a look at this really impactful YouTube video called "You Are Strong."
Good.
I think there's going to be some really interesting connections between these two.
Yeah, I think you'll be surprised by how much the stories resonate with each other, even though they come from totally different formats. Like,
Right.
for instance, in the Bouncing Back episode, there's this veteran named Daniel who finally found peace by, being open about his PTSD.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And you know what's interesting is that that podcast also brings up this idea of a ripple effect.
Mm.
And it's from this Dr. Alicia Harper. And she basically says that when someone shares their story, it can give other people permission to do the same.
Right?
And that creates this chain reaction of hope and understanding.
Oh, yeah. I think that's so powerful.
Yeah.
It makes me think about all the times I've heard someone share a struggle that I've also experienced and
Right.
how much lighter it made me feel just to hear that.
Totally. And it's like you're not so alone anymore.
Exactly.
And what's really cool is that Bouncing Back doesn't just stop there. They introduce us to Sophia, who used to struggle with debilitating anxiety,
Yeah.
and Mark, who has bipolar disorder.
And their stories are both about how they've actually used those challenges to fuel their own success.
Wow.
Sophia channeled her anxiety into creating a nonprofit that helps other people who are dealing with similar issues.
That's incredible.
It's like she transformed her anxiety into action.
It really makes you wonder what we could all achieve if we could find a way to reframe our own challenges
Absolutely.
and see them as opportunities.
Well, and the podcast gives us some clues about how to do that.
Okay.
They talk about understanding what your triggers are and then reframing your struggles as potential strengths. So it's not about pretending the struggle isn't there.
Right.
It's about looking for the opportunity within it.
I like that. And that's basically what Mark did too. Right?
Exactly. He actually built a successful career as an entrepreneur
Wow.
by creating tools and resources for other people who are navigating mental health challenges.
So he took his lived experience and turned it into his business.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That is amazing.
It's really fascinating to me is how he was able to combine his passion for helping other people with his entrepreneurial spirit.
Right.
It's such a powerful reminder that, our unique challenges can actually become the foundation of a fulfilling career.
So it sounds like the Bouncing Back podcast gives us these amazing personal stories, but it also offers some practical advice as well.
Absolutely.
We talk about things like, routines
Yeah.
and therapy and mindfulness and building a support system.
Yeah, and it's not just listing them off either.
Yeah.
They actually go into detail about how routines create stability,
Right.
how therapy helps you process emotions, and how mindfulness can help you stay grounded in the present moment.
Yeah, it's really practical stuff.
Yeah.
And, I think it's so important they emphasize that it's about progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
You don't have to do everything perfectly right away.
Right.
It's about taking those small steps forward.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of the You Were Strong video, too, because it has this same emphasis on, small, achievable goals.
Exactly. It's all about building momentum.
Right.
Even small actions like taking a shower or going for a walk can make a huge difference.
And, if you are looking for more support on your own journey,
Yeah,
you can always check out etherealenergeticvibes.com.
that's a great reminder.
They have tons of resources and a
Yeah.
really supportive community.
There are so many resources available to help us build that resilience and navigate mental health challenges.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about these amazing stories of resilience
Yeah.
and some practical strategies. But now I want to kind of dive a little deeper into the You Are Strong video and its message about honoring the struggle.
Oh, yeah, that's such an important concept. Because a lot of times we try to resist our negative emotions,
Right.
but this video actually says that acknowledging and accepting those difficult feelings can be way more productive.
It's like trying to fight the tide, right?
Exactly.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And you're not going to win.
It's way more effective to just acknowledge the wave and
Yeah.
learn how to ride it.
I love that.
Yeah.
And you know what else I love about the video?
What's that?
It emphasizes self-care and setting boundaries.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be these grand gestures.
Right.
Even something as simple as taking a shower or going for a walk can be a really powerful act of self-care.
That reminds me of the Bouncing Back episode again, with its focus on community support.
Right.
Reaching out for help is also a way of honoring the struggle, when you say?
Absolutely. It's a sign of strength, not weakness.
Totally.
Yeah.
And what's really struck me about You Are Strong was its message that it's okay to not be okay.
Right.
It normalizes vulnerability and reminds us that everybody struggles sometimes.
That's such a reassuring message,
Yeah.
especially in a society that often pushes us to pretend that everything's fine all the time.
Right. And that authenticity, that willingness to be honest about our struggles is actually what allows us to grow.
Okay, so we've talked about honoring the struggle, accepting those difficult emotions, the
Yeah.
importance of self-care. But both of our sources today actually go a step further and talk about the power of change and finding your purpose.
Yeah, and they approach it in such interesting ways. Like the You Are Strong video is all about empowerment.
Oh, yeah.
It encourages you to set your own rules, take risks, and ultimately become the best version of yourself.
I love that. It's like giving yourself permission to break free from all of those expectations
Yeah.
and to write your own definition of success. And then we have Mark from the Bouncing Back podcast,
Right.
who took his very personal challenges
Right.
and turned them into something that helps so many other people.
Yeah, he didn't just find his purpose, he created it.
That's so inspiring. It
Right.
shows that even in the face of adversity, we can create something really positive and meaningful.
Absolutely. And You Are Strong adds another layer to that by talking about the importance of communication.
Okay.
It suggests that openly sharing our struggles and aspirations can help us find meaning and connect with other people.
It's like that saying, right? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
We can achieve so much more when we support and inspire each other.
So as we wrap up this first part of our conversation,
Mhm.
what do you think is the most important takeaway for our listeners?
I think it's that resilience isn't about being invincible.
Right.
It's about embracing the ups and downs,
Yeah.
honoring our struggles,
Mhm.
and finding those glimmers of hope and opportunity, even in the toughest of times.
Beautifully said. I would add that it's also about remembering that we're not alone on this journey.
Yes.
There are resources available, there are people who understand, and there are communities that are ready to support us.
Absolutely. And if you're looking for a place to start, I highly recommend checking out etherealenergeticvibes.com.
It's a great place to find information, connect with others, and continue exploring this journey of resilience and well-being.
And that brings us to the end of part 1. But don't worry, there's so much more to explore. We'll be back in part 2 to delve even deeper into these inspiring stories and practical strategies.
One thing that really stood out to me from both of those, both the podcast and the video, was this focus on momentum.
Uh-huh.
It's not just about taking action, it's
Yeah.
about how even small steps can create this snowball effect.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's like once you start rolling, it just gets easier and easier to keep going.
Exactly. And in You Are Strong, the speaker talks about how even just basic acts of self-care, like getting out of bed and taking a shower, can help to spark that momentum.
So it's not about waiting until you feel motivated to do something.
Right.
It's about doing something, even a small thing,
Yeah.
to create that motivation.
That's a great way to put it. And it ties back to that idea of progress over perfection.
Yeah.
You don't have to overhaul your entire life in one day.
Right.
It's those small, consistent steps that really add up to big change over time.
And that really resonated with me in Sophia's story, too.
Uh-huh.
She didn't just suddenly wake up one day and decide to start a nonprofit.
Right.
It was this gradual process of understanding her anxiety
Yeah.
and finding ways to manage it and then using that experience to help other people.
It's like she built this bridge from her personal struggle to a place of purpose and impact.
Yeah,
And that's something that I think we can all do.
absolutely. And what I found so inspiring about the video was that message of setting your own rules.
Yeah.
It's about taking control of your life
Mhm.
and deciding what success means for you, not for society.
It's a powerful reminder that we don't have to follow a predetermined path,
Yeah.
We have the power to create our own.
And that makes me think of Mark's story from the Bouncing Back podcast.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't let his bipolar diagnosis define him.
No.
He took his experience and he used it to launch his own business,
Right.
something that not only helps others, but also allows him to live this really fulfilling life on his own terms.
His story really challenges this notion that mental health challenges are limitations. They
Yeah.
can actually be these catalysts for innovation and entrepreneurship.
And it's not just about business either.
Right.
The You Are Strong
Right.
video talks about the importance of expressing ourselves authentically,
Mm-hmm.
speaking our minds and sharing our stories, even the difficult ones.
Yeah, because when we share our struggles, we break down that stigma and create a space for, connection and understanding that.
It's like we're saying, hey, I'm not perfect, and that's okay.
Right.
And you're not perfect, and that's okay too. And in that shared vulnerability, we actually find strength.
I think it's so important that we're having this conversation because so many people are struggling in silence.
Yeah, they are.
And both of the resources that we're talking about today offer this message of hope, like it doesn't have to be this way.
There is help
Yeah.
available.
Exactly.
There are strategies that work.
Yeah.
And there are people who want to support you.
And if you are looking for a good place to start, I cannot recommend etherealenergeticvibes.com enough.
They have a wealth of information and a really supportive community.
It's a great place to learn more about mental health, connect with other people, and explore your own personal journey of resilience.
And I think one of the most important messages from both of our sources is this idea that, finding purpose and meaning can be a powerful antidote to struggle.
It's like having this compass that points you towards something bigger than yourself,
Yeah.
something worth striving for, even when things are tough.
And you are strong really hits home with this message of embracing the power we have to shape our own futures.
Right. It's about taking control and making choices that are aligned with our values and our aspirations.
And that reminds me of something else that really struck me from the Bouncing Back podcast.
What's that?
The importance of community.
Oh, yeah.
They talk about how crucial it is to have people you can lean on, people who get what you're going through, and people who can just offer support and encouragement.
It's like having a safety net when you're walking a tightrope,
Right.
that even if you stumble, there are people there to catch you.
Exactly. And that's such a powerful image because it reminds us that we don't have to go through this alone.
So as we start to wrap up this part of our conversation, I want to ask you, what's one thing that our listeners can take away from what we've talked about so far?
I think the most important thing to remember is that resilience isn't like a destination.
Okay.
It's a journey.
That's a really good point.
And it's a journey that's full of twists and turns, ups and downs. But it's also a journey that's full of these incredible opportunities for growth, connection,
Yeah.
and transformation.
And it's a journey we don't have to take alone.
Exactly. So as we move into the final part of our conversation, I want to encourage our listeners to embrace the journey, to be kind to themselves, and to remember that even in the midst of challenges, there is always hope. One thing that really stuck with me from both the Bouncing Back podcast and the You Are Strong video was this idea that resilience isn't about, avoiding difficult situations altogether.
Right. It's more about how we learn to navigate those challenges
Yeah.
and almost use them as opportunities to grow from.
Exactly. You Are Strong talks about this idea of honoring the struggle, which is basically this idea that those tough moments are just part of life.
Right.
And when we try to resist them, it just makes the suffering worse.
It's like swimming against the current
Oh, election.
instead of, fighting it. What if we learn to just ride the waves?
That's such a great analogy.
Yeah.
That's so liberating because it means we don't have to have everything figured out all the time.
Exactly.
It's okay to feel lost or confused or even scared.
And the video makes this really good point that resisting those feelings can actually make them more intense. It's about giving ourselves permission to experience, the full range of human emotions without judgment.
That really resonated with me, especially the part about how it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
We live in a world that puts so much pressure on us to have it all together.
Right.
But admitting that we're struggling is actually a sign of strength.
It's about being authentic, with ourselves and with other people.
Right.
And that creates space for genuine connection and healing.
And speaking of taking action, I loved how the You Are Strong video encouraged us to focus on small, achievable goals.
Yes.
It's a good reminder that we don't have to make these huge changes overnight.
Right.
Even the tiniest steps forward can help us build momentum over time.
It's like that saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Each small action contributes to the bigger picture.
And the Bouncing Back podcast also kind of touches on this by offering practical tools for building resilience.
Yeah.
They talk about the importance of routines and therapy and mindfulness and community support.
Right. And those tools provide a framework for navigating the ups and downs of life.
Yeah.
So routines create stability therapy, gives you that safe space to process emotions. Mindfulness helps you stay present, and a supportive community reminds us that we're not alone in this.
It's like having a toolbox filled with resources that we can use whenever we need them.
Exactly. And the key is to find what works best for you.
Yeah.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach to resilience.
Hmm.
It's all about experimenting and finding what resonates with you.
Both of the sources also talked about the importance of sharing our stories, which is
Oh,
great.
absolutely. When we share our experiences, we break down stigma, we create connection, and we foster understanding and empathy.
It's like this ripple effect, you know?
When we're open about our struggles, it can inspire other people to do the same.
It's true.
And that creates this wave of vulnerability and healing.
And it reinforces that idea that we're not alone in our challenges.
Exactly.
And there's something really powerful in knowing that other people have gone through similar things
Right.
and come out stronger on the other side.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into resilience, I want to leave our listeners with a sense of hope and empowerment.
Okay.
Just remember that challenges are a part of life, but they don't have to define us.
We always have a choice in how we respond to those challenges.
Right.
We can choose resilience, we can choose growth, and we can choose to create a life that's full of meaning and purpose.
And if you're looking for support or resources on your journey, we highly recommend checking out etherealenergeticvibes.com.
Yeah, they've got so much great information over there.
And a supportive community that's ready to welcome you.
It's a great resource for anybody who wants to learn more about resilience or connect with others who are on a similar path. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Divine Frequency Online Podcast. We hope you found it inspiring and empowering, and we look forward to connecting with you again soon.